Good morning, y'all. It is July 4th, and I'm going to take you around to do a beginning of July garden tour and just see how things are going. It's hot out there. I meant to get out here earlier today, but we actually slept late for once. And for those of you who have young kids, you know what I mean. My youngest is 6, and she's still at the I wake up at 6 because I'm 6 kind of thing. But today we actually slept until 9 in the morning, so that was surprising. All right, well, I'm here by the corn right now. It's right here. Look at it. Look how good that looks. I'm like, even if I don't get any actual like edible corn, I'm just proud to get here because last year all I got, I planted in ground, and I planted like, I think I planted it like in July, so it was really hot already. And I'm in the soil. I didn't do anything to it. I just tried to remember to water it. Keyword tried, because I think I forgot once in a while too. And it didn't do well. So this is like a step up from last year. And then maybe next year, if I don't get corn this year, I'll figure out why and adjust that for next year. If I don't get corn this year, it would be for 2 reasons. Number one, the bugs got to it first because I have not been really checking it for any kind of super duper buggy situations. And the other reason I might not get corn this year, like actual have corn on the cobs thing, is it didn't get pollinated correctly. Because I've heard people say, like, let me switch this around so y'all can see. Okay, so I've had people say that this up here is the tassel, and then down here is the corn. You see it right here. Look at that, that's like real like corn, oh my goodness! It's the corn with the silks kind of thing, and so the pollen has to get from here, and like I guess a drop of pollen, or like a little dust of pollen, I don't know what they're called, they're not liquid so they're not drops, but has to get on every single one of these silks. And each of these silks is attached to a kernel on the cob, and if it doesn't get pollinated, then the kernel won't form. So that's that. But there's 2 cobs here, 2 corn cobs on this one, and then my beans are down here too, y'all. I've picked a whole bunch, and I actually dug up this whole row was planted with beans. I pulled them up because they didn't seem like they were doing anything else, so I have to come out, and I think I'm going to try to plant another round of beans. But you see corn cobs there, corn cobs there. It looks like there's about 2 forming per plant. So that's interesting. It gives me some data in if I plant 20 plants, that's going to give me 40 cobs of corn, maybe, about. Because they all seem to be doing about that. Some of these didn't come out like this one here. Some of them I planted later than others, so we'll see how that works too, if the ones that plant later than others work or not. I ended up finally pulling up my peas, and we've been using like the dried up parts as kindling in our fire pit. Nyla's garden is looking like a little cheerful happy corner, kind of like she's a little cheerful happy girl, so it's cute. All right, let's go here to this craziness. All right, so my black-eyed Susan vine is climbing up there. It's not doing too much yet, but that's okay. This here is watermelon, and look, that's a little female watermelon you see on the bottom there. See how it has that little stripy round thing? That's the female watermelon. And then like over here, this flower, let me see if I can find it with my camera. Where are you? This doesn't have anything at the bottom, it's just a stem. That's a male flower. So I think after I finish videoing, I will come back through and see if I can make sure that that female gets pollinated. Although I do have all these flowers here. This borage is all done blooming, but this borage here is still blooming and looking pretty. And then you can see I have, oh, it's hard to find them. I scared them with my camera. But there's tons of little tiny flies and little pollinators here. So this is kind of just a joyful, messy mess. And in between all the stuff is the watermelon. So the watermelon's on the ground growing, And then there's all these flowers, which I'm hoping will attract the pollinators. And then here's my sunflowers going up, up, up. Yep, look at that. Let me see if I can catch Mr. B in there. Oh, hey honey. He's just watching you do your work. So, there those are. And then here's my little side craziness. These, I think they're black-eyed Susans, but they kind of are tipping over a little bit, but the pollinators love them too. They're all up in there. And then my purple asters are blooming. This rose bush never does well. It has like a disease like that, different colored leaves. Even though it looks pretty like that, it's actually some kind of like fungus or something. And then everything eats it, and it's not even growing roses this year. It came along with the house. So when we moved in here, we already had that rose bush there. And so I am thinking of kind of digging it up and planting a rose bush I actually want. All right, so now I'm going to go over to like the main part of the garden. The corn and the watermelon were kind of like side projects that got added on afterwards, tucked into different parts of the yard. And so here is the main garden. I'm going to show you as I'm let me back up. I'm going to show you as I'm walking up so you can kind of get the full view. There it is, my baby. I got three human babies and this garden baby. Okay, so this tomato plant I planted in a pot because it was a random one. I couldn't just kill it. It's actually doing something, so I'm just gonna let it keep going. Speaking of tomatoes, here they are. They're just growing up. Just tons of tomatoes everywhere. Now this is gonna be a problem because look how tall they are. And you see where the stakes are, and that's already started reaching to the top. So I've been researching topping off, which is like cutting off the top of the plant and letting it bush out. But I've also been cutting off all the suckers, so I don't know how that's going to work if I've been cutting off the parts that bush out. I want to show you underneath here. I have it really pruned up off the ground, because that's where you get into a lot of trouble, is the stuff like fungus and bacteria and stuff jumping from the dirt onto the leaves, and then it could really affect the plants. So I have them really pruned up. This also helps with airflow through your plants, so that since I have them planted so close together. All right, this is my little pot of rosemary. Some of the leaves were getting a little brown at the tips, but then I see new growth here. So I repotted it, and I think it struggled, but I think it's going to be okay. All right. So here we go. This bed is crazy, and I definitely think I overplanted it, but that happens. All right, here's some Italian parsley in this pot. The peppers here, they're still getting toned up. Look at that. That's crazy business. But there's flowers on there, and then you can see this one has little peppers. There's a pepper. Oops, where are you? Right there. Okay. Here's my acorn squash. It doesn't look the same shape as the ones in the store, but here's like my hand for size. It's pretty good. Okay. And these are growing up over here. There's one up here that I pollinated the other day. And I just love the way this trellis is coming out, how stuff is growing up and over, and it's just making me really happy. All right, but also mixed in here is a tomato plant. So there's that tomato plant with tons of tomatoes forming in there. Where are they? Here you are, and there's some more down there. And then back here are the cucumbers. So you can see some cucumber there. And cucumbers are so tricky because you're like, oh, there's nothing going on there, and then you like pull aside the leaves and there's a cucumber. There's another one forming. Here's another one hanging down. And there's another one. So you look at it and you see all the leaves and the greenery and everything, and you think nothing's growing. And then there it is. All right, down here I have, these are spaghetti squash, And I really like that they figured out how to find the trellis and that they're kind of going up the trellis too. Oh, there's another cucumber. But the crazy part is that I now have like 3 different vining things on this trellis. There's cucumbers, there's acorn squash, and then there'll be the spaghetti squash. So I don't know how that's going to work out. But the cucumbers have reached the top of the trellis, and then they'll just keep going around and trying to find some place. But I love this view right here. The leaves are wilting a little bit because they're right in the sun. They do that. They wilt when they're out in the sun. Anissa found some strawberries and she covered them up the other day, and so they're still there. All right, my lettuce, y'all, don't judge me. It's embarrassing. We haven't had lettuce in a while because it's hot. I think it's going to be probably bitter by now, but the bed is a mess. I need to come out here and clean it up. Okay. Let's walk through my little happy trellis. And here's my nasturtiums. Oh my goodness, my kids are screaming in the house. It's happy screams, but still drives me crazy. Nasturtiums growing along the side here. They're going to be flowers. Nasturtiums are actual edible flowers. And my Kajari melons are getting nice and tall. They're not super like sturdy looking. Like I look at them and I'm like, oh, you got these little thin branches. But they are growing up tall and they're already up to that rim of the curve of the trellis. I'm not seeing any female flowers yet. So far it's just male flowers. Is this female? Nope, that's a male flower too. So they're growing up there. Okay, tomatoes from the other side. These are kind of the bigger, I think I planted beefsteak tomatoes here. So some cherry tomato varieties and some beefsteak tomato varieties. The carrots are growing up. So they're in there. I'm just going to leave them to the fall really, because carrots just take a long time, and then if you pick them too early they break your heart. This squash plant here I'm not trellising. I'm just going to let it go crazy and do what it does. This one I am trellising, but it kind of fell over. I didn't tie it tight enough to the thing, so I have to come out here and fix that. Okay. These ones are trellised nicely, like it goes up against it. Let's check if there's any. I see all male flowers out here right now. Oops, that looks like it was a female over here. I have to figure it out. And then I have like a squash in there. That's cool. Or zucchini. And my yellow squashes, I come out and work on trellising these a little too, but some squash in there, yellow squash in there, some more yellow squash back there. Yeah, we are definitely in the we give squash to our neighbors part of gardening right now, because it's a lot. We've done what have we done? We've done just sauteed squash and onions with butter, which I love. It's delicious. And we've done roasted squash where you slice them, you put salt and pepper, and I think I put a little paprika on it, and then I put Parmesan cheese on top and roast it, and the cheese gets all crunchy and brown. It's delicious. And then I did zucchini boats, but I did them with zucchini and yellow squash, and that was delicious. So I'm still looking for like squash recipes. I think I'm gonna have to do zucchini bread at some point to use some up, but my neighbors aren't sick of me yet, so definitely still passing it out. All right, let's take a look. So these are the sweet peppers here. So you can see a little pepper in there, but these are just coming along slowly. I have to be patient with my peppers because I feel like I get flowers everywhere and then like nothing happens. The flowers drop off and nothing really happens. So I got to read a little bit more into that. Here's my thyme and some chives. We actually use the chives all the time. Chives all the time, get it? Because it's thyme and chives. Okay, this is my little dwarf tomato plant in a pot. It's doing all right. And here's my potatoes back here, also doing all right. Okay, here's my eggplant. Well, it's not really my eggplant, it's my eggplant and my friend's eggplant. Look at that, y'all. One eggplant there, another one kind of back there, and then when I lift this up, there's a bigger one there and another one there. Oh, and there's 2 more right here. So I'm really happy with this so far. And more squash over here. Okay, And then I have my pot of dill. It's a little right now, but soon it's going to be a big dill. Get it? Big dill. Okay, so my plan is I'm going to make pickles with the dill. Like all those cucumbers you saw over there, and grow them into pickles. And these are just pots of random flowers I planted. And some lemon balm is growing up in there. All right, anything else I need to show you? Let me think. I don't think so. My mint is doing fine. The strawberries and violas are just a sweet little touch. I think other than that, we're pretty good. So that's how my garden's doing in July. I feel like July is the time of year where things are starting to come together. The garden's starting to fill in. It looks really nice and green. It's a really enjoyable time of year. It's also the time of year where people often start to give up because it's hot outside. You got to come out. You have to weed. You have to trellis. You have to make sure you're watering it consistently. You have to make sure you're fertilizing consistently, and so people start to give up here. Don't give up here, okay? August gardens are like the, oh, I'm old and I'm falling apart, and you're still getting stuff from me, but you're so totally over it. But July gardens are, yay, you're doing something, and we're starting to see the results of all the work that we put in. So yay for July gardens. Anyway, let me know if you saw anything that you were like, what are you doing there? Or if you have any suggestions. And thank you so much for staying with me through this video. Happy gardening, y'all.